Hello, my name is Laura and welcome to my channel. I like to make stuff and today we're going to be quilting some more. I did a 9-patch quilt that was kind of like a landscape quilt several videos ago. I did not estimate or count how many squares I had, and so I was left with a bunch of leftovers. And so I just wanted to take these and basically make a larger 9-patch. I loved the fabrics that I chose, and I thought the colors went really well together. So here we go. We're going to make another little smaller quilt from all of this. So stick along, subscribe if you want to, like, all that good stuff. And let's get into it. Because I am newer to quilting, a lot of these squares were made before I had discovered a few things about your blocks and sizing and putting things together. So I had to square up all of these blocks, and I chose, since a lot of them seem to be slightly larger than 5x5, I chose to stick to my 5x5. However, about half of the squares actually wound up being smaller than that. So originally I was trying to line it up so that that center square was center, but after realizing that half the squares were too small, I stopped doing that because I at least wanted some that would fit. So at some point, I'm going to need to figure out what to do with those squares that are too small. My idea is to trim them up and then make another quilt from these blocks that's smaller even than the one that I'm doing. Because all of these were put together with the idea that the blocks were like going to be one color or representative of one color, I decided that I thought it would be cool to use those blocks and make a larger 9-patch, or not blocks, but larger 9-patch square out of those. And so that was kind of what I did the entire quilt all the way up. I would like to say that the secondary point of this video is my hatred of pinning things, and sometimes you need to pin things. It worked out for me actually well in this video, or in this particular quilt. I didn't pin. I don't like to pin when I'm doing straight lines or smaller blocks or a lot of blocks, and it hasn't been too big of an issue. I mean, I've been sewing a lot of clothes without pinning. I usually, for clothing at least, will try to pin for curved seams or things that are a little bit trickier gathering or things like that. But in general, for straight lines, I really hate pinning. I really do. The act of sewing is not what I'm doing this for. It's usually picking out the colors and then getting that final product. So I don't want to deal with pinning. But that being said, there is another project in this that could have used pinning, and I didn't because I am so averse to pinning that I thought I could do it without. But pinning could have helped. But I'm not pinning in this, and I'm also going to apologize right now that my hand is pretty much in the way of me sewing. Because I don't pin, I use my hands to guide and adjust the fabric as I go. Like, for the most part, I don't need to, but because these were larger blocks, I don't know. I guess I could have pinned. I just wanted this to be finished, and I don't like pinning. So instead, my hand is in the way of me sewing. Sorry. One of the recent things that I discovered that will not be shown in videos until a little bit ago because I was pre-filming some things. But I realized that because I've been so used to making clothes and just going off of the seam allowance in my on my foot. My foot is actually a dressmaker's foot, probably. Like, the seam allowance is much larger than a standard seam allowance is for most other quilts. I was watching a video by Quilters Addicts Anonymous, and they were talking about how it should be 1/4. And so, since I have begun paying attention to that, my seems like the things are laying much nicer. However, there are going to be a few scenes in the next, probably this video and next, where I'm not particularly paying attention to that. I thought I was going to have to get a whole new foot. However, I took a closer look at my machine, and I do not need a new foot, actually, so long as I pay attention to which line I'm following. There is, on the little clear cover for my bobbin, there is actually a ruler, and it gives me some measurements, and I realized that there is a straight line on my foot that's like a divot down, so it's like a little bit in from the edge. Well, that line matches perfectly with the measurement for 1/4. So I don't have to get a new foot. I just need to follow that inner line rather than the outside of the foot. And I thought that my 5.5 by 5.5 square would be okay, like not needing that seam allowance. But when it comes to the final assembly of everything, it really does make a huge difference by going off of 1/4 rather than, I think it's 5/6. Oh goodness, I hate numbers and I hate paying attention to those things, but now I know which line to follow, and I'm going to follow that line. And it'll work out. It's going to work out a lot better, and I don't have to get a new foot. So I am passing along the knowledge in case you probably already knew, but maybe you didn't. So there you go. Something I've learned. I did not get a final clip of me laying out all of the blocks. I tried to stagger them because half of them were with darker blues and half of them were not. I did also have to use a few green blocks, and I ran out of the white centers. So, although, did I put any in this? Yes, I did. Well, overall, I am quite happy with the way that it turned out. In fact, it reminds me a lot of those, like, old country time utility quilts, I think. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about if you're a quilt lover. It is very small though, so I have half a mind to put a border on it. However, I was told that apparently there is a trick to putting on borders, so I'm going to hold off for now until I go research that. But mainly I made another quilt top out of my leftovers, and that was what I was going for. So I have a little tiny quilt, whether that be something I pass along as a baby quilt or something I make into a larger quilt top. We'll see. I overall like it. Yellow, orange, and blue, they are really nice together. I like those colors. I don't know. I think it looks good. One of the other things that I was able to do over the holidays was get my broken dishes quilt actually quilted. And this is the first time I've ever had a quilt quilted on a long arm machine before. Pretty much all the others have been me hand quilting or trying to quilt on my sewing machine. Neither of those times, well, no, hand quilting I like quite a bit, but this was Mardi. Thank you so much, Mardi. I still love it. We chose because of the colors, I wanted to do kind of 70s designs. And so for part of it, the edges, the like top and bottom, we did these scallopy wave-like kind of things. And then she was able to find a groovy peace sign pattern. The original one that was in her that she had downloaded had Pierre in the title, so she was able to find one that did not have Pierre in the quilt design. And yeah, I am so happy with it. It is currently on my bed. Very happy with it. So of course I prioritized getting a binding on it because I was like really excited to get this on my bed and curl up with it. As a result, I did not do a very good job binding this. So the backing fabric that I used was a sheet. The sheet was like a polyester blend. It's all right, and I've done it before. However, when it comes to binding, and this is the issue, if I had pinned this down, the second step, I think I would have had such an easier time and it would have been a better binding. Now, I will say this is the best binding for a quilt that I've ever done, but it's still not like a professional binding. So I have learned a lot from this one and watching some videos. I'm eager to try again on another quilt because I believe I can do it. But for this one, part of the problem was I didn't cut it off. I wanted to flip it over, and that wouldn't have been such an issue if it had been cotton. And if I had, instead of folding it over and sewing it that first clip, if I had done that but sewed it to the edge of where the quilt was, so it was just the fabric that I was folding over, I would have had a much, I think, better time flipping it over and sewing it down than what I actually did. Either way, it actually doesn't look that bad far away, and I don't think you'll be able to tell so much. I mean, unless you're like really good at binding, I guess. It is what it is. So I'm going to cut this clip short because you don't need to watch me badly bind this quilt, which I may rebind at some point, but I, again, was just in a rush. I wanted it on my bed, and it is, and I'm very happy to be snuggled up with it at night. So maybe next year I'll cut off the binding and try again once I've practiced some more. But I mean, it's not so bad. I think either I'll cut it off or I will go through and hand stitch it down. Because the edges there are parts that are definitely not really attached to the actual quilt itself. Oddly enough, or like I sewed too close to the edge. I don't know. Anyway, don't do what I'm doing here. You're just watching me do this and my greasy head. Okay. But I did get it finished, and like I said, and I am in love with it. I love the little peace signs. I'm so happy to have another finished quilt, like truly finished, and it's on my bed and I get to love with it. So thank you again, Mardi. She's probably watching. Thank you again for quilting this for me. I will link her Instagram below. But yeah, you can see the little peace signs and the hearts and the stars. And they're rather big peace signs. I didn't have any problems with the joints. They were a little thick in areas. However, because of the design we picked, they did kind of sink more into the batting, which is what Mardi was saying would happen. So, yay! It's so exciting having a finished quilt! Here I am trying to show you the back of the quilt. Instead, I show you a little bit of our messy living room and my roommate's smudge stick that I knocked over while I was filming this and other things, which made a mess. But yeah, the sheet was the top sheet from the sheet set that I actually have on my bed. I never use top sheets. Anyway, thank you so much for watching and joining me. There will be many more quilts to come because I'm still having fun, regardless of how it may seem, picking apart my flaws. I promise I won't do it all the time. I hope you all had a great holiday season and are getting a lot of your projects finished. And like and subscribe. All right. Thank you. Bye.